Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to cover the concepts of authorization. So, what is authorization? Authorization is all about who can see what records. So, basically, in our current page here, if you see, there is an entity list here where all the records will be displayed. So, if I click on the browse website, I can see all the details, irrespective of my authorization or anything. So, what we would love to do is we would want to restrict who sees what data basically. So the first use case which I'll take is unless a user is authenticated. That is, if a user is not authenticated, the user should not be able to see these two pages, registration page and registration web page. So how do we achieve that? So to do that, I'll go to portal management app again, and here I'll click on web pages and I'll select the registration page since we want only authorized users, sorry, only the authenticated users to view this page. So what I'll do is I'll click on access control rules, and here I'll click on a new rule. So the name is control registration page access, and the website I'll give the portal website name. And here I'll click on restrict read. And here if access type I see, I have two options, which is all content exclude direct child web files. So I want to give it for all content. So basically I want to restrict read. So this is the part where it gets a little tricky. So I'll write it down here. So what we have created, it essentially means that now I am restricting access to everyone, all the web roles. Okay, so for all the web roles, now this is restricted. So what I can do is if I go to the web roles and here if I add an existing web role, let's say authenticated users, it means authenticated users are an exception to this rule. So what is the rule? The rule is that nobody, now I've restricted this for everybody, this page, but these particular web roles, that is authenticated users, will be able to rule it. It won't apply to them. So this is the concept. So most of the people I've seen, even in my own office, a lot of people are confused with this. Sometimes what they do is instead of putting authenticated users, they'll put authorized users, sorry, anonymous users. But that is wrong. We'll have to put authenticated users here, or we'll have to put the users web roles which you want to show here. Now that we are clear on how to give page-wise permissions, I'm going to talk a little bit about the table permissions. So we have created a lot of entity lists, entity forms, and all those things, right? In most of the cases, we don't want users to see records created by other users. For example, if I want to register myself as a student on the portal, I don't want to see other registrations because the first thing that doesn't concern me, and second thing, it will be a security breach. To avoid that, what we'll do is we'll create something called table permissions. So table permissions have web roles inside them. Web role can be anything. For example, in my case, a web role can be restrict access to other users to see the records created by any other user. So first we have the table permissions where we can configure who sees what, and the level of privilege is also determined here. And then we have web roles, and inside the web roles we will add the users. So I know this sounds a little confusing. Let me show you a walkthrough of how this is done. So here in the portal editor, as you can see, I have a list. So this will display the student records. So, but I don't want all the users to see all the records. So if I create a record, I want to see only my record. So how do we configure that? First thing, we'll go all the way down here, and then inside the permission section, we'll click on manage table permissions. So here I'll create a new permission and I'll name it as restrict access to others. And here I'll select a table. In our case, it's the student table. So here, as you can see, we have a lot of access and there is a very good description also. So if we give global access, which we've been giving till now, it shows all the rows in the table to users in the selected roles. So if I select contact access, shows rows in the table associated to the signed in user, that is the contact. So this is exactly what we want. Okay, once you select the contact access, it will ask you for a relationship. So what is this relationship? So if, for example, I'm logged in as a particular user, and if I want to, access only the student entities under my contact, I need to have a relationship between my contact entity and the student entity. So it'll generally be a 1:1 relationship between the contact entity and the student entity. So this relationship is not there, so we'll click on the new relationship. It will take us to directly that page where we can create a relationship in Power Apps, and I will create a new relationship. So I'll create a one-to-many relationship. Sorry, I'll create a many to one relationship. So most of the students will be under one contact. So from student, I'll map it to a contact. So this is the relationship name, new student, contact, and then I'll click on done. So great. Now that the relationship is created, I'll go back to that page, and here I'll be able to select the relationship. It's not updating yet, so I'll just refresh it. And here I'll click on manage table permission again, and then I'll click on new permission. And then I'll select the table here, which will be the student table. And access, again I'll select contact access. And in the relationship, now you see this relationship is coming. So I'll select that relationship. And here I'll give the permission to read, write, create, almost all the permissions. And here, now that we've created a table permission, the next concept which I want to talk about is of the web roles. So now the permission will be created, and I'll go inside here and I will click on add roles. So as I discussed before, first we create the table permissions, and inside the table permissions we'll create the web role. So I already have a web role created, but again I want to create a new web role. So I'll click on manage roles. Which will redirect us to the portal management app, and I'll create a new web role. So this one I'll name it as web role test. And the website I'll give our portal name. And here I can select authenticated user role if it's necessary or not. So I'll just leave it as of like this right now, and I'll click on save. So here what we'll do is, in the related section there is something called contacts, and under the contacts I'll add an existing contact. So whatever I add here, only these people will be applied to this web role. So only these people will have the access to view those records for now, and they can only view their records. So I'll click on save and close here. And this is how you apply, all those roles. So basically what I have done is I've created a contraption in such a way that the student table, when it is projected on this particular portal, you can only see your own records and not records created by anybody else. So this will impart a lot of security to this. So this is the main concept of authorization.